All right, everyone, welcome to another edition of the Rhythm Section Tulsa. I have a special guest today, and I had to debate whether or not I wanted to venture into sports. Usually, I stay with straight entertainment or just straight music, but I figured basketball players are very entertaining, and I had an opportunity. He's a good buddy of mine. Plays what was it, center or power forward?
Center.
Center. Plays center for the Oral Roberts University Golden Eagles. We had a couple of classes together, and I thought that he would be a really interesting guest. And he's one of the few lately that said he would do it. So there you go. Anyway, everyone, please welcome Albert Owens. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. So how was the rest of your season? I saw that one game, I think, in January, but I wasn't able to make it to any other ones.
Yeah, we ended the season at conference tournament. Lost a tough one to University of Denver in double overtime.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we couldn't really get the ball rolling that night until it was too late, and when we managed to catch up, they just managed to hit some really unbelievable shots that it just was their night. So.
Yeah, but where's the? I know for like Big 12 they have. I don't think they play. If Oklahoma's home, I don't think they play at Oklahoma, do they? They play at a neutral site.
Yeah, they play in Kansas City.
Where do you guys play?
We play in the Sanford Premier Center up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It's like it's really a basketball arena that was just made for our conference tournament because the conference is getting really popular up there with them having 4 teams in the conference and everything. So it's a really nice brand new facility that we play the conference tournament at.
Now, did ORU move back to Summit League or was it they were Summit, moved to Southland, and then a year later moved to Summit again, right?
Yeah, I played all my 4 years in the Summit League, but when I originally committed, they were still in the Southland. They stayed in the Southland for 2 years, and then just decided that the travel was a little too hectic for them, and decided to go to back to the Summit League.
Yeah, I remember that year. Let me think. I think the only team that did exceptionally well was the women's team. I think they made it to the NCAA tournament, I believe, that year. But I know baseball had their worst year playing in Southland. It was the first time they didn't win their conference in like 15 years. And then basketball definitely seemed tougher as well. But I was happy to see them move back to the Summit League. That's all I ever knew that they were in when I was growing up. So, but have you looking into getting any professional offers? You looking at Euro or NBA?
Yeah, I actually just signed with my agent a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
He's a Canadian guy. He does a really good job for me. We're actually looking into a lot of different overseas options right now, and hopefully, that this time in July or August, I'll be knowing where my next year will be at, whether it's in Europe or in Asia.
Okay.
So we'll see. It's really just a matter of who's willing to take rookies. Right now, It's kind of a hard market for first year players, so I'm really just looking forward to getting the rookie label off and being able to pick where I want to go more freely instead of having to kind of wait to see who's all available.
Sure. I've known a couple of ORU players that went and tried their hand in Euro and did pretty good. I think what was that one guy? I think his last name was Owens as well.
Larry.
Larry Owens, yeah.
Yeah, Larry. He actually played in the NBA in Turkey.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot he did play a little bit in the NBA. Was it Dallas?
He played for the Spurs. San Antonio.
Okay.
And he spent his last year in Japan, which is where I'm hoping my first year will be. I think he actually won the championship in Japan his last year, and then the next year he had a knee injury and just decided to call it quits. So he's actually teaching now at Webster in Tulsa, and he's doing a pretty good job with the kids, just doing a lot of basketball workouts and training and stuff. So
yeah, that's cool. I haven't. Well, that's good that I had you on here. I'd always wondered. He was good friends with an old next door neighbor of mine who used to play soccer for ORU. She actually had, I think, like third or fourth all time in either assists or goals. I think it was goals. Uh, what was her name? Rachel Hall, I think. But anyway, and didn't Caleb Green go?
Yeah, Caleb's actually doing really well right now in Turkey. He spent his whole career in Europe just because it wasn't worth not knowing when it comes to the NBA. He had a couple of tryout camp offers from the Lakers and the Bulls and all of that, and he played in the summer league, but he just said it wasn't worth being on a team for a couple weeks and then might be the last person to get cut and miss 2 months of the season overseas. So he stayed in Europe, and he's actually played pretty much the second highest level of basketball in the entire world for the last 5 or 6 years. He played in the Euro League, and now he's in the Turkish, I think they call it Basketball Super League or something like that. But he's still averaging 18 points a game. So, I mean, he's really killing it out there.
That's got to be the scariest place to be playing basketball right now with all the political upheavals going on. I know, like, Enes Kanter, he can't even go back to the country or he's going to get arrested.
Yeah, Turkey is it's one of those situations. I've had a lot of friends who play in like Russia and Turkey and stuff, and they say it's really different when you're on the basketball team just because it's their version of the NBA. But at the same time, I mean, it's not somewhere that you can just walk around freely. Most of my friends that actually have played there say they try just to keep their heads down, go to practice, go to the games, and really just back to their apartments and stuff. The only thing about it is they pay really well. Turkey, Iraq, Iran, they all pay their American imports anywhere from $7,000 to $25,000 a month for the season. And so sometimes the money, especially if you have a family or have a child that you want to take care of, sometimes the money's just too good to pass up for that 8 or 9 months, and you just try to be really careful.
There's are all those Middle Eastern teams in EuroLeague as well, or do they have their own league?
No, the Iranian and the Iraqi leagues are solely in their country. So Iraq only plays against Iraqi teams, and Iran only plays against Iran teams. Turkey is a little different. They have 2 EuroLeague teams, and I believe 2 Euro Cup teams, or maybe more. It goes EuroLeague is the best teams from all of Europe and Turkey and Israel. And what it is if you win your domestic league or are a really good team in your domestic league, then you usually get into the Euro League as well. And also, if you have big enough sponsors, you can get into the Euro League. So there are some teams that are in the Euro League based off of their sponsorships more than it is their overall talent, you could say.
Okay, so every year different teams are in EuroLeague.
Yes, it's quite possible sometimes for a team to be in the Euro League for a couple of years and then for them to drop down to the Euro Cup, which is the second level. Both sponsored by kind of the same people, but it's 2 completely different leagues. But they're both the best teams from the domestic leagues of Europe.
Okay. See, the way I always thought it was is the German team is always in the Euro League and the France team is always in the Euro League. I didn't know that you can drop in and out of it depending on how well you did or how much money you got.
Yeah, it's
almost like an invitational.
Yeah, it would be the equivalent of if we took the NBA, the Canadian Basketball League, Mexico, South America, really all of the top tier basketball leagues in this side of the Western Hemisphere, and just said that the winner from the NBA, the winner from Canada, the winner from Mexico, combined with 3 or 4 other big time teams and good teams, all competed in a tournament at the end of each of their respective seasons to see who was like the North American champion or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said you're wanting to go to Japan. Is there a team that's interested in you, or do you just really like the Japanese culture? Think it'd be fun to play in Japan?
Right now, I mean, I don't know any teams because they're still playing, so they're not really looking for who to sign for the next year. The reason I want to go to Japan is just because as a center and power forward, that's what they look for over there. They don't really take a lot of point guards just because the average height in Japan is not very tall, so they need bigger guys to fill those positions, so they pay a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody I know that's went to Japan just said that they had, even the ones that had never heard anything about it, said they just like the culture, they like the cleanliness. I mean, Japan is really
I hear they're super friendly too.
yeah, they really love basketball. They love the Americans, and it would be pretty cool to play there. But I'm also open to going to Europe and playing in Germany or the Netherlands, France, what really just wherever. I mean, it doesn't matter. But Japan is just one of the places that I'd be interested in playing in.
Okay, and something I didn't know until a few years back, but Japan loves baseball. Other than maybe soccer, baseball's probably second.
Yeah,
And I know they like basketball too, but I was surprised to hear America's pastime is huge in Asia.
yeah. Japan has some of the best pitchers. I mean, in the world. They some of them spend their whole careers in Japan and never come to the MLB or even to the minor leagues. But baseball is a really big time sport over there. It's not something that they take lightly, and like I said, the pitching is something that you could really learn a lot from in Japan, just because those guys, they get pretty good over there.
Oh yeah.
So
I think I want to say that's where the sub pitchers originated, where they throw almost underhanded. The only most of the subhanded pitchers I've seen have come from Japan or Korea or one of those other places. Everywhere else they do overhand.
yeah, it's really innovative over there, I guess you could say. They do a lot of stuff in baseball, and not just baseball but basketball as well, that people could take a look at. I mean, it's one of those things, I guess, where they kind of take whatever they saw. So they probably started off overhand pitching just like everyone else, and then just through trial and error, they come to find out that some guys are just better pitching.
Yeah.
I don't want to say underhand, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's not underhand. It's
like
what's
a
called
sidewinder,
it's
something
sub.
like that. Yeah,
I think they're calling submarine pitchers.
yeah,
Which it's actually a lot easier on your shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Pitchers who do that don't really have shoulder problems.
yeah,
All the ones that do are the ones who throw overhanded.
yeah. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So you said you signed with an agent.
Mm-hmm.
How crazy must that feel? Growing up, you hear college athletes signing with agents. Now you're actually signing with an agent.
It was a different experience than I expected it to be in some ways, but I enjoyed everybody that called and put forth their offers and stuff. But it's pretty exciting to sign with an agent and have somebody that now recognizes or believes in you, that you have the talent to be a professional athlete. And so I'm just excited to keep going along and see how far we can get, really, just as a team, I guess you could say.
Can you say who it is you signed with?
Yeah, his name is Matt Slan. He's like I said, he's from Canada. The agency's called Slan Sports Management. He just
So he owns it.
yeah, he's the CEO. He has a lot of guys who I played against in college, and he seemed to have a pretty good roster of guys that's on his team, and he wasn't too big of an agency where you would feel like you were one out of a million, but also it wasn't like he was somebody's uncle or something just representing 3 or 4 guys. So he really had the right mix.
So not too long ago, I was actually talking to the Thunder about trying out. This was on NBA 2K, of course, but I was talking to them, and there's this part in the game where they said, "Do you have an agent?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Well, if you don't have an agent, we can't talk to you." Is that sort of what it is? Do you have to go through an agent to be able to sign for teams or stuff like that?
No, not really. In America, I mean, it's a little different just because the NBA and the NFL and the MLB, they have players' unions and player organizations where they make sure that all the players are getting treated right by the teams. Mm-hmm. In Europe and Asia, there are no players' associations or anything like that, and so you don't really have to have an agent. My uncle, he played his whole career really without an agent, but some people, they just like to have an agent to take care of the math figures and money figures and all of that and logistics of it. But there are plenty of guys who have made a great living overseas just by being their own agent, and it really just depends on what you want to do or what you prefer.
Mm-hmm. I know Baker Mayfield's trying to do that. He doesn't have an agent. He's going to be representing himself once he gets drafted in negotiations. I don't know why he's doing it. Everyone's saying that he needs to do that, but you know, I guess he figures he could get more money by not doing that.
Yeah. The strange thing is about rookies in the NFL and the NBA is, I mean, if you didn't want to hire an agent, for your first few years in the league, it's not always a bad decision just because you're on. If you get drafted, you make a set amount of money regardless of where you go. So Lamar Jackson from Louisville, he didn't hire an agent either, and a lot of people were saying that was strange for him and all of this. But number one, he's afraid that teams are going to move him from quarterback to wide receiver or something like that. And number two, I mean, if you're allotted already, because he's going, I don't know, second, was it first or second, something. He's going high.
He'll go in the first round at latest late or early second round.
Yeah, and so his contract basically is already decided. The agent can't vouch for any more money, and the team can't give him any less. He's going to make X amount of money, and that's going to be it. So, I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, I mean, he doesn't have to pay an agent 3% or whatever it is for the NFL rules. I know NBA, you can only take 3% out of the actual NBA contract. And so
it's not that much.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot, but at the same time, I mean, if he's trying to keep all of his money, I mean, for the first 2-3 years, however long the rookie NFL contracts are, I mean, I can see why you don't get an agent, but that second one, I would, without a doubt, get an agent because they're going to be the ones that are vouching for you to get more money.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if you get, I mean, this is very low and it's a very easy number, but $1 million. You get $1 million, and all you'd have to do is pay $30,000 to have an agent to get you even more money, make sure you're treated well. It's really not that much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot for me, but I also am not making $10 million every year. But I did see a few months ago you hit a big milestone. I think it was rebounds. Was it 1,000 rebounds or 1,000?
I scored 1,000 points this season,
points.
and then I also grabbed my 500th rebound at the Navy Center in January, I think, maybe February. I can't remember. So,
okay, that's what I remember. I still talk to Blake Freeland, the sports information director there. That's who I ended up working for when I was in college. But I saw he posted something about it. I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You remember what team it was against?
My 1,000th point was against Oklahoma State. And then my 500th rebound, I want to say, was either against East Texas Baptist, which was a Division III school that we played in an exhibition, or not really an exhibition, but we played them because IEPUI left the conference, and so we needed to fill, and they were one of the only teams that would fill the schedule.
Okay.
And or it was somewhere in the conference, I can't remember. I just know that it was towards the latter half of the season.
But both of those happened last year. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the 1,000th rebound was earlier in the year though, because we played Oklahoma State, I think, like the second game of the season, and then the 500th rebound came a little bit later, just because it's a lot harder to do because you get 2 points for every basket, but you only get a rebound is just one, and so. That one took a little bit longer, even though it was almost, I mean, I needed 40 points at the beginning of the season to get to 1,000, and I needed something like 50 rebounds to get to 500, but they took way longer,
Yeah.
So,
and I saw an article about. I know when I went to the game, I didn't know that they had moved you to 6-man, so I kept expecting you to be in the starting lineup, and then you weren't. I was like, oh, is he hurt? But then I read an article, and I was, if I remember right, you had said something to the effect of it's whatever the team needs. What ended up happening with that? Because last I saw you, you were the starting man. Did the coaches feel the starting lineup he was planning was better and bringing you off the bench?
Well, what happened was I didn't play against Missouri State
Uh-huh.
just because of coach's decision. I didn't play the entire game.
Uh-huh.
And then the next game, we played Florida Gulf Coast, who was a really good team. They were ranked in the top 25 mid-majors. And we beat them by, I think, almost 20 points
Yeah.
at their place. And the coaches just decided, to roll with that, with me coming off the bench, just because we won 2 games in a row. And before that, we had lost, I think, 7 out of 9 or something like that. And so they just decided to switch things up. And it being my last year, I wasn't looking to really cause any trouble or cause any drama or be, drama queen or anything like that. And just, decided to just do as best as I could whenever I did get into the game. So it wasn't anything that I could really trip over or fault the coaches for. It was just something that, you have to just put your head down and do.
Yeah. And I saw I read the article, and I was proud of you. I was like, that is such an Albert Owens thing to say. It's just, I may not be starting, but it's better for the team. They need some experience coming off the bench.
Yeah.
And I was impressed by that, but I wasn't surprised because I've known you for 2-3 years.
It might be almost 4 now. I think we met when I was a freshman.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We had, I think, 2 history classes.
Yeah,
together.
Vickery and Garrison, I think, were the 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Which at that, I don't know if you changed your majors, but were you still in history?
Uh-huh.
Still...
I ended up finishing it. I'm in grad school now doing.
Oh wow.
I'm doing Masters of Education Administration.
Mm-hmm.
I've got about 10 hours left, or maybe 12, something like that. But I've basically done a summer and then 2 semesters worth of full-time grad school. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, you said you wanted to be either a teacher or principal or something in school administration.
Yeah, eventually, I mean, you have to, in Texas, which is where I'll probably be living, you have to teach for 2 years before you can be eligible for administration positions.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to teach, and then hopefully within 2 to 8 years, however long it takes, I'll be moved up to principal or something like that at whatever school I'm working at.
Are you wanting to coach?
Yeah, for a little bit. I'm more into summer coaching than I am into high school, just because high school, the rules are so restrictive compared to the summer.
Uh-huh.
There's practice limits and stuff, and I'm not saying that I would want to practice the heck out of the kids, but you can get a lot more development down in the summer than you can during the school year. And so I think that it's a lot better for somebody like me who's actually played college ball and everything to help more with development than it is the X's and O's.
Mm-hmm.
So
now, when did you know you were wanting to play basketball in college and professionally? I assume at a young age.
Yeah, my mom made me play basketball from the time I was 5, but I didn't really take an interest in it until I was probably 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't think about playing in college until I was probably 14 or 15.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I mean, it's been the same goal ever since, and that's to be a professional.
Mm-hmm.
And but I really didn't ever think, when I was my little cousin's age. He's playing football now at 8, I think, or maybe 10. And I never thought when I was his age that basketball would ever be for me. But it's funny how things work out.
Yeah. It's kind of the same way with me in music. I grew up thinking I was going to be a baseball player, but then I hated the fact that other people's jobs righted on if I threw a strike or not. There was just too much pressure. So I ended up falling back on music. And I never would have thought I'd been a professional musician currently. I always thought I was going to be either just an accountant or a pitcher for St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, it's just crazy how things work out, because usually the stuff that you don't really take an interest in as a child, it might not always, and usually not always the case. I think, like I was saying, my cousin, he's playing football right now, but I think he's 5'11".
Yeah.
I think he's 10 or 11 years old, and he's already 5'11".
Yeah.
And his dad is my height, and his mom is almost 6 feet, and I mean, he's probably going to be 6'10".
Yeah.
And I think my uncle's just waiting for the day that he decides he wants to stop playing football, because it's not a whole lot of room for 6'10" skinny kids on a football field. But
unless you're a tight end
yeah,
or something to that effect.
yeah,
That's how I was when I was younger. I think I hit 6 feet when I was 12 or 13, and then I just stopped growing. But yeah, what really sucks, I'm starting to kind of fall out of love with football just because of the health risks I know are involved with it that aren't there for other sports like baseball, basketball,
oh yeah,
soccer. And it's not so much the body. You see old football players limping around. It's the head injuries.
yeah. I mean that stuff is out there. Some of the stuff that we're finding out now about, not even concussions, but they call them subconcussive hits, where you can still pass a concussion test and everything, but you just really got knocked out.
Yeah,
It's something that I don't think I personally will want my kids to do.
I won't let them. I won't let you can do what you want with your kids. I'm not gonna let my kids do it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm not even sure that when it's time to pick a sport, I'll even suggest football, just because, I mean, number one, I saw that I did a project on this for school, but it said that with the data they have now, if you're under the age of, I think it was 12 or 13, you shouldn't be playing football anyway,
Yeah,
because you won't be able to handle it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just science, not even a parenting thing or anything. It says, kids below the age of 12, like, their bodies are not developed and their brains are not developed to the point where they can repeatedly take hits like that and come out as whole,
mentally
I guess you
sound,
could
yeah.
say, or however you want to describe it. Like, it's not possible.
Yeah, and what's even crazier is that you don't even need to get hit in the head for your brain to get jarred. Offensive linemen or defensive linemen are getting head injuries just by getting hit in the chest, because you still get a little whiplash, a little
Yeah.
snap, and the brain's extremely soft. It doesn't
Yeah.
take much for it to start getting rattled around.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I guarantee if they knew what we knew now, there'd be a whole lot of people that made it to the NFL that would probably be playing basketball or running track or something if they knew what we actually knew now.
And for years I thought, oh, they're just sissifying the game, and I'm like, no, they probably shouldn't even be playing football.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, it's been rough.
Yeah. But I still watch it. I still like it. It's still a lot of fun to watch. It's just it's gotten a lot harder for me knowing just what they're putting themselves through.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I were them, you couldn't tell me differently. I would still be wanting to play.
Especially when you've done it your entire life and
it's your dream.
You've changed the lives of your kids and their kids for, the next 30, 40 years. It's one of those things where it's hard to just say, I'm done with this. I'm just going to put it down.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of guys, they get into the league. Most guys, honestly, probably get into the league coming from probably middle class to lower. There've been a lot of people who came into the NFL who had dads in the NFL, or who had dads that were really good football players. But for the most part, I mean, when you really listen to a lot of professional athletes now, the goal is still always to make enough money where you don't have to worry about what you're going to eat anymore and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that as time goes on, because we're seeing it with Steph Curry, we're seeing it with even the Manning brothers. I said Steph, the Manning brothers. There was another guy, he's in the NBA. Kobe's dad played in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of guys whose dads played basketball or whatever sport at a very high level, who are teaching their kids things that they didn't know while they were in the league, that if they could do over, maybe their careers would be different. But instead, they're passing it on. And I think in the next few years, we're going to see a lot of guys who are coming into the league who had dads that played. And I don't know how that's going to work with football, just because the dads played and made enough money for their sons, not to have to go out there all the time if they don't want to. But at the same time, it's a lot of guys who have dads in their lives. That's the main thing you want to do when you're young is be just like your dad, especially as a kid, as a young man.
Sure.
And so it'll be interesting to see what the NFL does because unlike basketball, I mean, we're not really finding out anything bad about what basketball does for your bodies besides, of course, like knee
lower
pain
back,
and stuff like that. But it's nothing, to the terms of
a lot of times that's just getting older. You get back pains and leg pains anyway.
Yeah.
When you get older, it's basketball. There is some contact, but it's very rare. I mean, maybe once, twice, maybe 3 times a year hear of somebody getting a concussion.
Yeah.
And
It's not And what's crazy about that is we hear 3 times a year about guys getting concussions, but even in the NBA, it's becoming more and more common because the more they find out, the more they're realizing, you don't have to have a headache to have a concussion.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, they play the game and they get hit in the head or something, and they feel fine, and then the next day they tell the team doctor or whatever that, I'm not feeling 100%, and when they do the concussion test, it turns out like, you've got a concussion, you can't play the next game, but it's, I would say it's a lot more careful than football just because with a concussion in basketball, you sit out from the game and you wait, but the concussion doesn't come from a severe hit. That makes sense. And so
not all the time.
Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, I don't know if you saw Kevin Love. He got hit pretty hard this last week, and that's a football-like hit.
Yeah.
But for the most part, those guys are getting concussions from inadvertent elbows just to the wrong spot of the head or something like that.
Or
But
hitting
nothing,
the floor in a funny way.
yeah, but nothing where it's like head-to-head contact, just ramming each other, constantly.
Well, and like with football, they use their helmets as weapons.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's a legal hit, they're still using them. Whether inadvertently or on purpose. I had a friend who made an interesting suggestion. He said maybe the best way to get rid of concussions would be to take away players' helmets because they would be a lot more careful with their head, and they wouldn't be using it as a spear to knock other guys out.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's an interesting thought, but it never worked.
No.
You're still going to get a lot of head injuries doing that. The only way to really fix it is to make it flag football rules. Yeah, and I know nobody wants to see that.
The other thing they have to start doing is I never played football personally, but all of my best friends played. I mean, every single one of them. Being from Texas, everybody plays football growing up.
Yeah.
And one of the things that all my friends say all the time is that if you look at younger football players and coaches, they don't teach you how to properly tackle anymore.
Right.
Because there used to be a real technique to tackling. I mean, it was,
You'd wrap up.
Yeah, you wrap up.
You throw your hips in.
Nowadays, I mean, you look at little kids, they're trying to do the, I don't know who made it popular, but they're trying to do just lower your head and just ram a guy until he hits on the ground. And it's like, number one, it's a lot easier to miss.
Yeah.
Number two, if you do get contact, I mean, you can really hurt yourself. And number three, I mean, if they're a guy stronger than you, I mean, that whole idea of just running into somebody is only gonna work if you blindside them. Really, it's not gonna work in a straight up situation.
Yeah, and I never understood. You can still make a really devastating hit if you wrap up.
Yeah.
You don't need to just throw your shoulder and see what happens.
Yeah.
I tried that one time, and the guy stood on his feet and scored a touchdown, and I felt like crap.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think if coaches got back to truly teaching how to tackle, which some leagues are doing now, it's a requirement. If some leagues got back to teaching that, I mean, you never know. I don't know if concussions would necessarily go down, but I'm sure that some of the more, I guess you could say, horrific injuries that we've seen, like the guy that played for the Steelers, I think some of those will go away if people started tackling properly again.
Yeah, just going for the body and not trying to spearhead people. Although they are taking steps to make that illegal. You can't do it in college football.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's just an unnecessary roughness penalty in the NFL if they think it's too malicious. But so as of yesterday the NBA playoffs were set. Who are you liking?
I am a huge Celtics fan and a huge Dallas Mavericks fan.
Sure.
But my favorite player in the NBA, outside of somebody who I would model my game after, such as Joel Embiid, like somebody that doesn't play my position, is LeBron.
Sure.
And I don't see the Celtics beating the Cavs or
Not without Kyrie.
yeah, and I don't see Toronto doing a whole lot. I don't think they have the playoff guts really to beat the Cavs. They fold every time they get in the playoffs, and I think that even if he is the fifth seed, I think LeBron is getting ready for his 8th straight trip to the finals. I mean,
Yeah, which is insane. But I always had a theory. LeBron is one of the greatest players to ever play the game. Period. But a lot of people I've heard point to he's made it to 8 straight finals or 7 straight finals. And my retort to that was always the East is not nearly as good as it was in the 90s or 80s. He's not playing against the same type of people that Jordan was in his own conference. He's playing against elite players in the Western Conference. And it's still impressive that he's making it to all those teams. But when he has the help of Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, I mean, it's not that surprising to me that he's been making it to the finals every year.
yeah, I would say that.
But this is coming from a non-basketball player.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of basketball players that say the same thing. Like that argument is nowhere near invalid or anything. The only thing that I think, because
I mean, it's still impressive. Because I hate to make it sound like I'm trying to be a LeBron hater, because I'm not. It's just, looking at the facts, there's no other team with like a Patrick Ewing or a Larry Bird or a Dr. J that, players like Michael Jordan played against.
I would say that my biggest thing is because I personally believe that 10 years from now when LeBron retires, that nobody's even really going to be talking about who the greatest basketball player of all time is, just because I think right now part of the reason that we have the discussion is because LeBron is still playing, and there are honestly a lot more slow sports days than we think on Fox Sports and ESPN. My thing is LeBron is bigger, faster. He's Karl Malone, but running a 4.5 40.
I mean, his size is incredible for what he does.
And I would say that one of the things about the East that a lot of people say, is that it's not as good as it used to be. But my biggest thing is part of it is I truly believe it's because you're 26.
Yeah.
And I'm 21. Part of the reason I would say is because we grew up looking at Kobe, Shaq, Tim Duncan, a lot of those guys. And the West, I mean, it's fair to say that the West has been a lot more competitive than the East has. But when it comes to the debate versus the 90s, I think that a lot of people forget the fact that Jordan went through a lot of struggles before he won his first championship. He never beat Larry Bird in the playoffs until Larry and Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish were all near 40. Yeah. And then when it comes to playing, I mean, Patrick Ewing was great. Patrick Ewing had a good team, but they kind of had the problem of they relied solely on Patrick, if that makes sense. It wasn't as evenly spread as it should have been, especially for the talent they had.
If you shut him down, there's not much they could do about it.
Yeah, and that's just because of the way they ran their offense. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that John Starks wasn't a great point guard. It just has to do with they really rode and died with Patrick. But yeah, I mean, Jordan never beat Kareem. He didn't beat Hakeem in the finals. He never played him when Hakeem Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson.
That was the year that he was playing
retired.
baseball.
Yeah,
right?
the 2 years that Hakeem won back to back, Jordan had retired, and then Kareem retired when he beat Magic for his first championship, and Magic actually ended up pulling his hamstring and didn't get to finish the series. Not that it would have helped because Magic was near 40. James Worthy, I think, was either near retirement or had retired. Yeah. I would say that it's a lot of Jordan won a lot of championships against guys who were in their primes, but his road to the playoffs was not successful until the East was kind of on its way out of the prime, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the thing I would say about LeBron is, regardless of how good the East is or not, the biggest thing I would say is when they played the Celtics, when he beat the Celtics with the Cavs when they lost to the Orlando Magic. I mean, people really forget that the Celtics were really good. I mean, they had just won the champ. They had either just went back to the championship back to back, or they had just won. I can't remember what year it was, but the year that they lost to the Magic, people forget the Celtics still had the big three. And then Dwight Howard, who gets a really bad rap in the NBA, in my opinion. I don't think people remember how good he really was that year that they went to the finals. Sure. I mean, him, Hedo Turkoglu, Rafer Alston, Mikael Pietrus, like that was, people look at that team and they say, oh, like, I mean, how do you lose to that team if you're LeBron? But like, the truth is, like, if you've got a good big man like Dwight Howard and you've got shooters like Hedo Turkoglu and Mikael Pietrus, like, I mean,
that
LeBron,
Magic team was stacked.
Yeah, I mean, they were super stacked, and I think that people forget some of the things that LeBron went to not only get to the finals, but even to get through the East. I mean, the year that they played the Spurs in 07, his second best player, we can't even name him right now.
Right.
Like, we don't know who he is. It was literally just LeBron and Zydrunas Ilgauskas. And the only reason we know him is because he's a really, really popular guy in the NBA. Everybody loves him. But it wasn't like he was Tim Duncan, or it wasn't like he was, he's not even a Kevin Love.
Yeah.
And I think that when we compare LeBron to Jordan, we have a tendency to only look at finals records. But when we look at overall playoff records, it's a big difference because LeBron's never lost in the first round of the playoffs. Ever.
Right.
Every year that he's made the playoffs, never lost in the first round.
I don't think he's ever made it less than the Eastern Conference Finals, has he?
I think he may have got bounced in the second round against the Celtics.
But like that was
early on in his career.
Rookie or second year?
Yeah. Probably his second or third year. I'm pretty sure they lost in the second round. But I know for a fact he's 13-0 or maybe 12-0 in the first round. And then and Jordan is definitely not. And then LeBron, unlike Jordan, was able to truly, there are only two people in the history of the NBA that have ever led their team to an NBA Finals almost completely by themselves. Allen Iverson with the Philadelphia 76ers when he averaged 30, and LeBron James in 2007. Everybody else that's ever got to the finals, they've always had a tremendous supporting cast, whether it was through trade or through drafting. Like, they're the only two dudes that have ever made it, like, and you can literally look back at that team and say, if they didn't have him, they don't win 30 games.
Absolutely.
And I think that, once again, because of slow media days, I think people forget that type of stuff when it comes to the debate between Michael Jordan and LeBron. But in my honest opinion, the greatest basketball player of all time is Wilt Chamberlain, just because when it comes to, when you look at what he was doing in the NBA and all of the things that he is responsible for in our modern NBA, I think that him and Kareem are severely underrated when it comes to who the greatest basketball player is of all time. I mean, Kareem's got 6 MVPs. He's got 6 championships, just like Jordan. He's got more points. He's got more rebounds. He's got over 1,000 blocks. And, I mean, there really was no drop-off with Kareem. I mean, his last year in the league, I think he averaged still like 14 a game at 40. And not like 38, but like at a legitimate 40. He had played 20 years straight. And then Wilt Chamberlain, I mean, he is just...
no one dominated like Wilt did.
I mean, the closest is Shaq, and Shaq didn't do the things that Wilt did in terms of assisting the basketball.
Maybe Bill Russell.
Yeah, and the thing, I was just talking to my brother about this last night, but the thing about Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain is people always say that Chamberlain got dominated by Russell, and I mean, I was looking at the stats, and it's like, it's nowhere near close to true. In their games against each other, I believe Wilt averaged 28 points and 28 rebounds a game. Wow. Which I wouldn't call being dominated by anybody
No.
if you're giving up 28. Granted, they played a faster pace. Like the NBA was a lot more. There were way more possessions, so there was a more chance for rebounds, more chance for shots. But still, there were a couple games that I looked at where they would go head to head, and Bill Russell. There was one game he had 34 points and 55 rebounds.
Yeah.
Like that's not getting dominated by that record will never be broken. The 55 rebounds. Like
it won't.
never. And so when you look at what he was able to do and how he was able to do it, I think that he's severely underrated just because we don't have many of his games on TV until he was, 33, 34 years old. And even then, funny story is they used to say that they said that there would be times where, people would be like, well, you ain't got it no more, man. Like, you're getting old, you need to retire. And next thing you know, Chamberlain would come out, 40 points, 40 points, 40 points at 35 years old, 40 points, 40 points. And then he'd go back to just passing and rebounding, be like, still think I don't got it? Like, that's cool. Like, he was just that type of person. Wilt was not what they would call an ultimate competitor, like Bill Russell was.
Yeah.
Wilt was more in the LeBron category, really, like someone who is naturally just gifted and therefore does not really see the need to be insanely competitive like somebody like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of Wilt Chamberlain, LeBron James, Shaq, those are people who are so dominant in their sport that they are competitive, but not to a fault, if that makes sense.
Yeah, not to cheating in cards with your friends like Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite stories. He was such a jackass.
Oh, yeah.
He still is a jackass.
Yeah. I heard he went to, I was at River Spirit probably a few months ago, sometime last summer actually. And one of the guys I was playing blackjack with got to talking, and the dealer, they have conversation and everything, sure. And it said that when he was working in Las Vegas, said Michael Jordan came into the casino one time and had this whole entourage, had 6 bodyguards surrounding him in like a square.
With River Spirit and Jinx?
Not at River Spirit. This was in Vegas.
Oh, okay.
And he had 6 guys with him, like surrounding him, bodyguards in black suits, black ties, glasses, all that. And he comes to the craps table, and boss, I think it was something like $10,000 in 10 minutes. Yeah. Like just just lost it and looked and said, okay, you know what, forget this. I'm not winning tonight, and just left. Yeah. But that's just the type of person he is. And he probably came back later on, so you just never know. I mean, it's an interesting story. Some of those guys that work at casinos, they see a lot of NBA and NFL players, and you'd be surprised what the insane amounts of money that they come in with to just play cards.
Yeah, but the thing is with Jordan, he could lose $10,000 a day and wouldn't even notice it.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be anything to him.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be a billionaire.
Oh yeah, Jordan Brand made $2 billion last year, I'm pretty sure.
God.
So he got a really nice share of that, and he owns the Charlotte Hornets. So it's not like it's not like he's hurting at all.
No, not at all. But man, Jordan Brand, gotta watch out. That triple B is coming.
Oh man, that is tough. I just don't know what I get what LeVar was thinking.
Well, I mean, he's a brilliant marketer. He's getting exactly what he wants.
Yeah,
he's just doing it at his kid's expense.
Yeah, I think that this is the thing about LeVar that a lot of people don't understand is when you play basketball, like people like us have, like people who either make the NBA, play professional, or even play college Division I, everybody knows the LeVar Ball. Yeah. Whether they want to admit it or not, because when you play AAU, there's always that one dad who doesn't matter who his boy is playing against. His boy is better than you. His boy is better than LeBron. It doesn't matter. I mean, I knew LeVar Ball. Like, he was on my high school team. His dad was literally LeVar Ball. They were the exact same person. But the difference is his son wasn't going to the NBA. His son was not good. Yeah. But LeVar has the blessing of having 3 sons who are pretty talented at basketball. Granted, one of them is way more talented than the other in Lonzo. Yeah. But all 3 of his boys are they could have been college basketball players. Yeah. And so I think that it's not surprising what he's doing to me, and it's not unusual because I think that a lot of the AAU dads that I know would do the same thing if they were in that position.
Yeah.
The only thing about him that I wonder about sometimes is when when his youngest two sons are done playing in Lithuania like they are right now, what will their options be? Because they're not going to play in the NBA. They're not good enough.
Right.
And so that's the biggest thing that I think about. But in terms of big baller brand and all that, like I understand, like you don't want your son to be, this is a bad way to put it, I guess you say, but like quote unquote pimped out by the shoe companies. Like you want your son to be in charge of his own stuff. That's fine. I mean, you know, you can. I mean, Jordan basically does the same thing. I mean, Jordan brand is owned by Nike, but it's a subsidiary. It's not like there is no Nike swoosh on Jordan brand clothes.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I get that point, but the way he's going about it with the extravagant prices is just something that I don't know if that helps or hurts.
They're not even that cool looking.
No. No, it's like Gucci shoes. Have you seen those? Gucci has tennis shoes out that are $1,100 that I'm telling you, like you wouldn't even look twice at if you saw them in Walmart.
Right. I don't know. That whole thing was. It's just hilarious. ESPN has become the new MTV. It used to be all about sports, but now,
I swear it has.
But now it's more about either politics or.
See, $980.
They're nice, but
yeah.
But what? How much did you say?
$980. Like
$120 to me.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, but I'm saying that's about what I would guess that shoe is.
Yeah. No, I mean, and then what's funny is it probably cost $120 to make, if that.
Probably not even that.
Yeah.
It's probably more like $60 to make.
Yeah.
With the materials and it. I mean, probably the most expensive part is just getting the creating that design, sewing it on to the shoe. But other than that, no, it's made. It's probably made a little bit better than most shoes. But I mean, it's going to have the same amount of durability as anything else.
Yeah, probably less to be honest. Just because
probably,
you know how that goes.
Yeah.
So, that's what he's trying to do. I mean, he literally said that the big baller brand was somewhere between Gucci and another high end fashion brand that normal people don't really ever get a chance to buy.
Yeah.
So.
And the crazy thing was he was trying to push that off before his. I mean, he was more well known than his kids were at the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And I hear that the shoes will show up like broken or whatever, and then their customer service is just like, "Well, it sounds like you're not a baller."
Yeah. No, I think that they need to go back to the drawing board. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having your own shoe. Plenty of people in the NBA that we have never heard of have their own shoe.
Yeah.
But they could go about it a little differently.
Sure.
The other thing, what you were saying about ESPN, and I mean, it's almost unwatchable now.
Yeah.
If you want to know the truth,
it's all either politics or TMZ, like who's dating who. It's like I don't care about this. I just want to see the score of the dang Cowboy game.
Yeah, that's why I moved to. I made the switch from ESPN to Fox Sports just because. I mean, Fox Sports 1 does talk about a little bit of social issues, I guess you could say, but it is nowhere near as politically oriented as ESPN now is.
Yeah.
Like, they did a purge at ESPN a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
That, I mean, anybody who basically didn't hold the same viewpoint as, I guess you could say most left-leaning people at ESPN got fired for diversity purposes.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, essentially it was.
I thought it was that they were struggling with money and they were having to let people go.
No, I am pretty sure that ESPN did a purge a couple of months ago and fired some people because they either had been there quote unquote too long, or they were bringing in new people to create like more of a quote unquote atmosphere of like diversity. I guess you could say. Now that's not like a direct quote from ESPN, but like it was. Some of the firings were basically because like they wanted more. Diversity, as they like to call it. In other words, they just want people to look different but think the exact same.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
That's typically what a company means by diversity.
Yeah, I mean, Google did the same thing. Have you heard about that guy?
Yeah, he was on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh, you listened to that?
And did you? Is that?
Oh yeah, I listened to. I
love Joe Rogan. Yeah. That one. It sounds like he really was just saying scientifically, this is probably why women aren't in tech as much.
Yeah.
And then people crucified him.
Yeah.
He didn't deserve that.
Yeah, at all. I mean, and it's one of those things that what people don't understand is it's kind of like being the most conservative person in a liberal place, and then you move somewhere, and all of a sudden you're the most liberal person in a conservative place.
Right.
Because, I mean, I'm almost 100% sure that if he came to Oklahoma, he would be looked at as, like, a super left-leaning person, like, super liberal, like, just, like, really, like I said, the most liberal person in a conservative place. But because he's in California, stuff he's saying that sounds normal to us sounds just extremely offensive or aggressive to the people out in Silicon Valley, which is crazy.
Which they're extremely liberal. Silicon Valley is one of the most liberal places.
Yeah.
But not saying that's bad, not saying it's right. I'm just stating the fact. But anyway, I had to say that for the people at home. No, the crazy thing about that was people didn't even read the memo. They just all they heard was Google executive makes sexist comments, and so they hated him for it. Yeah. They didn't. If they had read the document, I think all reasonable people would have been like, it wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah, I mean it's and like you said, it has nothing to do with left leaning or right leaning. It has to do with clickbait, basically. Like, I mean, what gets you the most? I mean, you look at some articles on Twitter now that people are getting up in arms over, and you just read the headline and you're like, oh man, this is terrible. And then you actually click the article and you read it and you're like, this is not what happened at all according to the actual article. I read one that a kid somewhere, I can't remember what state, but him and his buddy decided to go rob somebody, like commit armed robbery. And his buddy got shot by a police officer. But according to the law, if you're an accomplice to a crime and the police shoot you,
I read about this.
you get charged for that murder because you're an accomplice.
Wasn't his last name Washington?
Yeah, something like that. And so the title of the article though said, "Teen gets 65 years for police officer killing friend." Yeah. And it's like, and you're like, wait a minute, what? A teen gets 65 years because of police officer? And then you read it and you're like, no, wait a minute. These were two 15-year-olds who decided to make a horrible mistake and commit armed robbery. Yeah. And then when the police get involved, a shootout occurs and somebody dies. Right. Like, that's a totally different headline than just saying that a kid gets sentenced to 65 years because a police officer shot his friend.
Or kid gets 65 years for his friend doing something.
Yeah, yeah. Like, that's a completely different, those are completely different headlines. But
I saw that article on, I think, the front page of MSN. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? And I clicked on it. I was like, oh, that's false advertising. That's nothing what you were saying it was.
But they do it. I mean, everyone does it, whether it's ESPN, Fox Sports, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, MSN, like everyone clickbaits now because that's what generates the money is.
I saw a headline on Facebook from ESPN that said Kevin Durant is opting out of his player option.
Exactly.
And I was like, really? Is he going to be going somewhere else? And then I looked at it, I was like, no, he's trying to negotiate a better deal with him. Yeah. So he's waiving his, however that works, he's waiving his player option so either he can get more money or get, I know he was taking a pay cut to make sure that, like, Curry's staying, whatever.
No, I mean, even something as simple as sports, like, I saw the same article on Facebook, and it was like, once you read it, it's like, no, like, he's just doing the exact same thing that he did last year. Yeah. And that's just signing a 1-year deal so that way they have more cap space to try to get pieces to add so they can win a championship. Right. And it's like at the end of the article, it literally says, nothing is changing. Kevin Durant will still be a Golden State Warrior. The only question is for how much money.
That's not what they put in the headline, though.
Yeah, yeah. It's like they put that in the fine print, and it's like you're wasting time.
It's to get more clicks, get more ad revenue, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's extremely annoying.
Yeah. But I think the news has always been like that. It's just now on social media, now we are actually starting to recognize the patterns ourselves. Now that the news is so interactive, it used to be you would just have to turn it on TV. Now you can actually do these researches on your phone by themselves.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, it's kind of like you said. I mean, we aren't experiencing as people anything that our parents and their parents have not really experienced before. It's just the mediums in which we experience it that make it so much different.
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of times people forget that, like, we still have the same problems with relationships that our parents had, same problems with, friends, same problems with jobs. Like, that's why all of those things you see on Facebook are so relatable, because it happens to everyone. Like,
exactly.
It's not just speaking to you.
Right.
And I think a lot of people forget that.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking for about an hour now. Before we wrap this up, is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything else you can think of? Any questions, comments?
No.
If not, I do have 3 questions I always ask people.
Okay.
First of all, do you play any instruments?
No, but I am a rock band god.
A rock band god. Which instrument do you play?
The guitar.
Guitar.
I can do all of them, but I don't play the drum one at my apartment because I don't want to get a noise complaint.
Right.
So
I was never good at the drum ones. Me being a bass player, I was always better at playing bass.
Yeah. What's funny is I heard a lot of musicians who actually know how to play like real instruments. I heard a lot of them can't play that game.
Yeah,
it's too unrealistic.
Yeah, it is. I know. Have you ever heard of Rush? They played their own song on Rock Band, and they ended up getting booed off stage. In the game. But I mean, they play it every single day, so So they're like, oh, screw this. Who cares?
Yeah.
I know my dad got ticked off. He was like, "Ooh, Rock Band, let me try this," and he was playing. He fails, like, this is stupid, and he grabbed the guitar and he actually played the song. He's like, see, I can play this. I'm like, I believe you. But you don't play any instruments. What was the very first record you ever bought with your own money?
Very first record I ever bought with my own money. Ironically, I think it was we talking about digital or real?
The very first record album that you ever bought digitally or in store.
So the very first song I bought was Enter Sandman by Metallica.
Wait a minute. So the very first thing you ever bought was on iTunes.
Yeah, the very first music.
Man, I feel so old.
Yeah.
I remember times before iTunes, I would just go to the store, get a CD.
Yeah.
Dang it, Albert, you're making me feel old today.
No, I have a bunch of CDs in my car. The very first CD I bought was, I want to say it was actually Conway Twitty. I'm a huge country music
You're
fan.
kidding me.
Yeah, I swear.
You got to be kidding.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge country music fan, especially older country.
Oh yeah, sure.
And
Conway is fantastic. I love Conway.
No, he's really good. My dad liked him a lot, and I bought his CD. I got Hank Williams.
Sure.
And then I got 2 Metallica CDs, all like at the same time, around the same time period.
You'd fit in well with our band. We on the road we'll listen to Merle Haggard, and then very next song we're like, hey, let's listen to some AC/DC.
Yeah.
We have very wide musical tastes.
Yeah, no, I'm into just about everything except for not a huge jazz fan. I mean, when I'm in the mood for it, I am. Mm-hmm. But my least favorite, I like heavy metal, but I can't do like the more darker, like death metal stuff like that. I don't really fool with that.
I'm not big into that either. Yeah. With jazz, the only people who really, I don't want to make a generalization, but most people who listen to jazz are musicians themselves.
Yeah, I can see that.
And jazz is a very musically, there's more musical concepts in jazz than just a straight pop or country tune.
Yeah.
So if you play an instrument and you look into jazz, you appreciate it a lot more. Now there are non-musicians who like jazz, but from my own experience, jazz is more into the serious musicians who know the theory and not just chords.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And it was most people who I talk to, they're like, oh, I listen to everything except country and rap. And they almost wear that as a badge, like, yeah, I hate these two genres. I'm like,
Yeah.
why are you proud of that? I'd be ashamed.
Yeah.
Like, I want to like everything.
Yeah.
If you like everything, you have more things to listen to.
Yeah, because the thing I like about metal is just like Metallica and Korn and those type of bands is the songwriting ability of those guys gets taken for granted a lot of the times
Sure.
because people read the lyrics straight when, like, just for example, Metallica's got a song called you probably heard of it. It's called Master of Puppets.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like people, a lot of people that aren't into that type of stuff, like they'll look at the song and be like, "This doesn't make any sense," and then it's like, no, like he's talking about like drug addiction. Like it makes a lot more sense when you really look into the way they arrange their lyrics and like what it really means, like behind the words. Like to me, it's really impressive. Like those guys are really a lot more impressive to me than say like a good rapper is nice, but to me like metal singers, when they come up with these lyrics based off of things that you wouldn't even be able to guess on first glance, like that type of stuff is really impressive.
Sure. You ever listen to Dream Theater? Mm-hmm. Oh my God, they're my favorite band.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah,
like really good, and they're extremely difficult to play on rock band.
Yeah. Well, which song did that? Was it Metropolis?
Yeah.
Metropolis. Yeah. Oh man. And there's some songs that are easy to play in real life, but hard on Rock Band. Dream Theater is just hard across the board. There's no easy way to play. There's no cheating when you're playing Dream Theater.
Yeah.
And then my third question I always ask is, usually I ask, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen while performing? Mm-hmm. I've seen bar fights. I've seen a lot of different things.
Yeah.
What's the craziest thing you've ever seen while playing basketball?
This one's kind of weird, but one time we were playing a game and a kid.
Was this while you were in high school?
And this was in high school. A kid was playing, and this is like the weirdest thing. We were playing and something happened and he got hit. And somehow or another, I think he got hit in the stomach or something, and somehow or another, like just right in the middle of the game, he just stopped in the middle of the court. And I think he got hit so hard that he like literally peed himself.
Oh.
And I had never seen anything like that before, because like basketball, when you're playing, it might be the same with music. When your adrenaline gets pumping, like you get the feeling that you have to pee before every game, but you don't, like, that nothing's gonna happen if you go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
And the adrenaline and the sweat usually just makes it like you don't even feel it anymore, like it just goes away.
Right.
And so when he got hit, I was like, man, like he must have got hit really, really hard.
He literally got the piss knocked out of him.
Like I mean, like they stopped the game and like he went and changed his shorts and everything.
Oh, poor guy.
But it was like, we were all looking and we were like, man, like, because we were running the other way and he just stopped and we were like, man, what happened? Like, because I guess he went up for a layup and like somebody jumped with him and he like got hit in the stomach or something. But I would say that's probably like the weirdest thing that I've ever seen while playing basketball, because usually you don't even feel like you have to use the bathroom like for the whole 40 minutes. Like it's literally just basketball.
Usually you're not hydrated enough to feel like you have to go
you literally are. Yeah, you're literally only thinking of drinking water and making shots, and that's it. Like bathroom or anything like that is like completely off the mind.
Oh man,
so
that's crazy. Well, Albert, it was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on. Hope you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Cool. Definitely have to have you back on the show.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you have any? You have any game dates or anything that you want to plug or anything like that?
Nah, season's over. Just won't know what'll be going. I really won't know what the future holds until probably about mid-July. So right now I'm just working out, trying to stay in shape. So
well, always keep in touch. You always have a friend on this podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely miss having class with you.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. That was Albert Owens, center for the for the Oral Roberts University Golden Eagles. Check him out. He will be hopefully playing in Japan or even better in the NBA sometime. But really enjoyed having him on the show. And next episode, probably gonna have JT Hubbard on the show next time. But anyway, thank you for listening. And as always, until we get real sponsors, we are brought to you by the letter A.